All right, perfect. So we are now going to call to order the City of Santa Barbara Fire and Police Commission special meeting, October 22nd, 2020. Carol, would you please do a roll call?
Sure, Chair Stedman. Chair Stedman.
Here.
Vice Chair Rodriguez.
Here.
Commissioner Allman.
Here.
And Commissioner Peck.
Present.
Wonderful.
All right. Okay, are there any changes to the agenda?
Nope.
All right, changes to the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the meeting minutes of September 24th?
I move to approve the minutes of September 24th.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, all those opposed say nay. All right, item number 4 passes. Are there any? Carol?
Sorry, Chair Stedman, you kind of cut out there for a second. I imagine you were saying the public comment section, correct? And at this time,
Correct.
I have no one.
Sorry.
I have no one raising their hands for public comment.
Okay. All right. Very well. I guess was Administrator Casey able to log on?
Mr. Chair, we are still trying to get him on board. Oh, he just.
Hello.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
He's here.
Yes. Okay. So we'll move right into item number 6. Hey, good afternoon, Administrator Casey.
Thank you very much, Chair and members of the commission. I apologize having to call in by phone. I'm up at City College taping the Chamber of Commerce's State of the City presentation, which will be airing next week. So I apologize I'm not on video with you all. Thank you very much for letting me come and speak today. I want to give you a status about the fire chief position and how I plan to move forward and ask for your assistance and involvement in that process. First, I think you know that tomorrow is Chief Nichols' last day in the office, and I want to thank Chief Nichols for his service. I've greatly enjoyed working with him and wish him all the best in his future endeavors. And I think you're also aware that Operations Chief Lee Waldron will be retiring next month as well. And so I just want to publicly thank Lee for his many years of service to the City of Santa Barbara and wish him all the best as well. And so I wanted to fill you in on what's going on now with the recruitment process to replace the fire chief. First, earlier this week, I announced that Battalion Chief Chris Males will become the acting fire chief effective Saturday. And so I really appreciate Chief Males stepping up into that role and providing leadership to the department during this recruitment period. And so thank you, Chris, for doing that. He will announce next week his plan for having an acting operations chief when Chief Waldron retires in November. And so that process is forthcoming. He's interviewing people and coming up with a plan there. So we will have the core structure in place with the chief and an operations chief. And I want to say I interviewed all the leadership team in the fire department in making the acting description. I couldn't be more impressed top to bottom with all of the leadership team that we have at the City of Santa Barbara Fire Department. Everyone is committed to the same goal of wanting to do what's best for the department, for the employees of the department, and for the community. They really support each other, and I felt very good about the strength of the bench that we have to get us through this interim period as we get the leadership team settled in early next year. So I just want to thank all of them for their commitment to the organization and their professionalism. So what I will do now is I will then start a recruitment for the permanent fire chief position. Similar to what I did a couple years ago at fire chief and about 5 years ago for police chief. We'll do an open nationwide recruitment. I would encourage internal candidates to apply as well. But as for any department head position, I always open it up to get the best candidate possible for the city organization, whether it be an internal candidate or external candidate. So we'll start that. These recruitments generally take 4 to 6 months. It's just the amount of time it takes to get a brochure together, get it out, give people a chance to apply, screen the applications down, and so on and so on. So we'll start that process. I don't have a firm schedule for you today, but where I would hope to get involvement from the fire and police commissioners is I will come back to you at a later meeting when I've got a better schedule and have a sense of when we will have panel interviews. And so this is when I invite another fire chief or two to get technical expertise. I will invite representation from the fire union to be part of that process, and I would like to invite someone from the Fire and Police Commission to sit in on what we call an oral board, when we interview maybe the top 6 or 7 candidates. It's an all-day effort, so it is a commitment, but greatly would appreciate and value an input from someone from your commission to be part of that process. And so again, I'm not asking for you to appoint anyone today. I'll come back with that request at a future fire and commission meeting. And then the city charter has a role for some of our commissions in the city in which they have a little more input as to the selection of the department heads for the department that they work for. And that includes the Fire and Police Commission. And so we have the rare opportunity to have a closed session to talk about personnel matters. And so after the oral board, they will hopefully suggest to me the top 2 or 3 candidates for me to do a much deeper one-on-one dive with those candidates. Then I will schedule a closed session with you all to come in and give you my recommendation, explain to you the process and who the finalists were, why I'm recommending who I am, hopefully get your concurrence, and then I go to City Council and I do the same thing in closed session with the City Council and hopefully get their concurrence as well, and then we make the announcement for a new fire chief. Like I said, that takes probably 4 to 6 months, but it's a good process. It's delivered us good candidates in the past, and I totally expect we will get good candidates as part of this process as well. So today I just wanted to check in with you all, give you that heads up, encourage you, if you have any feelings about key qualities, traits, or challenges that I need to be considering as part of this recruitment process, either tell me now or send me an email. You have access to my email, and give me any feedback you want. I will do the same with the department as well. And I've already started that process with the leadership team within the department. So with that, I'll pause and be happy to answer any questions.
I have a question. Paul, you just want 1 commissioner and an alternate, or do you want 2 commissioners ultimately?
So thank you, Chair Stedman. It's a good question. I don't know for sure because I'll have to see how I put a panel together and how many spots I have and kind of the logistics. And so when I come back to you and ask for appointments, I think last time we had 1 commissioner and an alternate, if I recall correctly. But I will flesh out those details as we get closer. Thank you.
Okay, very well. Thank you.
I have a question. I'm wondering, Mr. Casey, with the retirement of Nichols and Waldron, these are our 2 top leaders in the fire department, and we're approaching our fire season here in Santa Barbara County. I'm wondering where that leaves us in terms of vulnerability and operations for this time until we find a permanent chief.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Rodriguez. It's a good question. It is something I've thought about and established. And that's where I wanted to highlight the competencies and experience of your battalion chief. So you've got Chris Males. Boy, I'm going to blank on their names, so I'm not going to try to name them all out. But I met with them all, and they're all outstanding, long-serving battalion chiefs and leaders within the department. They've had experience on dealing with local fires and events. They have traveled to other fires throughout the state in mutual aid responses. That's why it was important for me to get an acting chief in place, and why it's important for Chief Mayo to get his operations chief in place, which he'll announce early next week, such that we have that structure ready in case something comes into us. The other option I would have had would have been to go outside and bring in an interim chief from outside the organization. And I think the ramp-up time, like you said, during the critical fire season, would have been more problematic than promoting from within, because I think we've got the talent from within who have experience, unfortunately, dealing with a lot of local fires.
Thank you.
This is Chair Allman. I happen to know all of those folks. I worked with them in the chief's realm, and I have the utmost confidence that that they can handle what comes up. They've been, as was said, they've been through the ranks. They've got lots of experience, and from my own experience working with them, I'm very happy with the choices.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Max, any questions?
No, Chair. Sounds like we have a really good process in place. I like where we're headed, and excited to see who's going to make it to the chopping block.
Yes, this will, through my various service to the city, this will be my third evolution through this process. So I can tell you that Paul Casey's got this process down pat. We just have to step through it, and I'm sure the end result will be satisfactory to everybody.
Yeah.
I agree.
I'm sorry to see that we're losing two really just amazing people who stepped up into the leadership position within the department. And I congratulate them on their retirement, but it's also, I'm sad to see them go.
Okay, Paul, are you still there?
I am. That's great. Thank you very much. And I agree with Commissioner Rodriguez's comments. They're two really outstanding individuals within the fire profession. That's what happens. Change occurs. And so we look forward to the next generation of leadership as well. And I'm sure it'll be there.
Excellent. Excellent. Thanks for your leadership, Paul.
Thank you. So I will be back in touch at a future meeting as the process evolves. And please reach out to me if you have any questions in the meantime.
Will do.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. All righty. Let's move on to item number 7. And I just want to say thank you to our vice chairman for kind of, getting this in front of us, and also for Matt, who's going to present this item, for pulling it together. So Matt, if you're on the line, you have the floor.
I am. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Committee members, it's a real pleasure to be here. I very much appreciate you making room on your busy agenda for me. So my name is Matt Four. I'm the Senior Assistant to the City Administrator, and I'm here to talk about a study, a project that we're undertaking out of the City Administrator's office at Council's direction. So in June of this year, as part of the adoption of the fiscal year 2021 budget, the City Council directed staff to undertake a resource allocation study of the police department. I just want to go into some detail on what the project scope will be, what the timeline is, and most importantly, opportunities for this commission and those within your network to really engage on this process. We want to hear from a wide variety of people, and you'll certainly play a critical role in that. So the goals of the study are, it kind of starts with the premise. Let's all, start with the premise that the quote unquote traditional role of law enforcement has greatly expanded over the decades, right? From simply law enforcement and capturing felons to a whole lot more in the realm of social services and homelessness and mental health. The police department is the outfit that is on 24/7 and has radios and is always out on the street. And so for a wide variety of reasons, their scope and what we as society charge law enforcement sworn officers with has greatly expanded. And so the focus of this particular study is to differentiate of all the things that we ask police officers to do, to put all of those activities into two categories. The first is essential law enforcement services and non-essential. So two categories. And then to the extent, the things that we agree on that are essential, we will leave alone. We will stay, we're going to say, good, that's your mission, you stay with those. For all of those activities that we decide are non-essential to a law enforcement agency, we're asking, well, to whom could we offload these non-essential activities? Could these go to other city departments, for example? Could it go to nonprofit agencies? Could it go to Santa Barbara County, for example? If it's homelessness and mental health, maybe Santa Barbara County is the most appropriate agency to undertake this. There may very well be some transition that needs to take place, some logistics, and it certainly may come with a price tag, but we are trying to define who is most appropriate within the county itself geographically to undertake these things. So that's really the mission statement, the purpose statement of this study. And then we'll talk about what we're doing. So we put out an RFP, a request for proposals, to a wide variety of consultants and agencies, and we asked them to submit a proposal that would ultimately deliver these products to the city. The first would be to really define what are essential police services. And before we do that, we don't want to do that unilaterally. So there'll be a couple of workshops and focus groups and a lot of public engagement right out of the gate, specifically on what is that definition. That's not a definition that we want to create in a vacuum as city staff, and that's certainly something that there'll be a wide variety of opinions about what is an essential police service. Now, certainly some of those things are legal mandates, right? There are only particular people that have the legal authority to do things, but there are a lot of things that we ask police officers to do that don't have a legal mandate. And so we want to get into, with a lot of public engagement, really drilling down and defining with the community what are essential police services. We're then asking the consultant to, after defining those things, to categorize those between essential and non-essential, and then come up with the recommendations, like I said, about where do we, or to whom do we shift these non-essential services. So the tangible deliverables, and I'll go into process after this slide, but the tangible deliverables are defining essential police services and doing the public engagement, giving us an administrative draft report that city staff will go into and correct and fact check and things like that. Then there'll be a public review draft. So similar to any standard strategic plan or environmental impact report, once we are satisfied with the administrative draft and the consultant's done what we asked them to do, then we're going to put that, we'll convert that administrative draft to a public review draft, and that will come with more public engagement. So these are the recommendations, and what do you think, community? Are we on the right track, or did we miss something? And then we'll have a final report that will come to council that they will use. What they've asked to be able to do is to use that report in their deliberations for the fiscal year 22 budget, which really begins in earnest in early spring.
Mm-hmm.
So the report components, we talked about administrative draft report, public review draft, and final draft, but all of those reports will have the same components. And so first, how did you define essential police services? Because that's a big deal. And I'm going to keep saying that. That's really the crux of this study, is how are we defining what essential is? The second is we want to know, well, what methodology did you undertake to put all those activities into the two categories of essential and non-essential? Now, we're giving this consultant many years of data, and you know, one great thing about law enforcement agencies is we report on everything and we track it and we time it. So we have a lot of data that we can hand over to the consultant in undertaking this study. But again, what we've asked the consultant to do is get straight on the definition of essential before you even look at the data. We want the definition to drive the data analysis and not the other way around. So then tell us about the interviews with stakeholders that you undertook, critical stakeholders on all sides of this issue. So we're helping them with connecting with thought leaders and stakeholders in this issue, but we're going to want to know who did you meet with, and what were what were the raw thoughts, so we can see that, and how did you translate those into the study. The next section are the recommendations for shifting non-essential work. So to the things that are in that second category of non-essential, to whom are you recommending that these should be shifted to? Is it another city department?
Mm-hmm.
Is it another city department that has an existing city job classification to undertake that? Or is it something new, right? And so in commissioning this study, the city council didn't create positions, but they did signal their openness, depending on the study results, to create additional staffing. And it might be classifications that we've never had before, right? It could be in mental health services, or additional code enforcement capacity, or homelessness, for example. And so we're going to ask them to tell us, to whom should we give these, whether they're in the city or without. If they're without the city, which agencies are you identifying? So who should we be talking to? What might the cost be with this? And ultimately, what's the critical path? And so please help us to prioritize, because some of these things could take multiple years to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
So as we recover from COVID budget, revenue losses, as we recover the budget, as we build capacity, which positions should we be identifying first, either to get the most bang for our buck, or because certain things have to be sequenced before others. So we're asking them to really give us an actionable roadmap that a decision-making body like the city council can say, okay, I get it. We'll do this first, we'll do this next, we'll do this next. And then finally, we're asking for the financial implications of those recommendations. And so, this may very well not result in the purpose of this is not to save money, right? This is not a cost saving study, but we'd like to know what the financial implications are. So in some cases, because of efficiencies, because of other things, we may very well see some cost savings. With others, there may be an actual incremental cost to affect them. And we'd like to know what the shakeout is on all sides of that ledger. Okay, so who are we looking for? In the RFP, we asked for contractors that had experience conducting similar work. Doesn't have to be exact. And frankly, in my research, I didn't find something that was exact to this study that we're undertaking now. But there are a lot of firms that have done strategic planning, certainly have done a lot of strategic planning, and strategic planning really gets to the core of what are essential services. Everybody has to define that, right? Even in strategic planning, what are essential, what are non-essential? So we're asking for that, but it certainly doesn't have to be a direct law enforcement consultant either. There are a lot of other consultants that have a lot of organizational capacity and understand this issue, and could be social scientists, for example, working in the public sector. We're asking for a consultant that has experience specifically working in the arena of racial justice and equity. And so we're really looking for that as again, a component of what a qualified consultant would be. Contractor with a track record of completing work on time and on budget. And again, the city council would like to have at least sufficient pieces of this study done to be able to use the information that's gleaned from this in their deliberations for the next fiscal year. And then finally, this is complicated and it's sensitive, and we're looking for a consultant that has experience with, a good track record in communicating very well in a written basis, verbally, presentations to community groups of all types of audiences, as well as more formalized presentations to elected bodies and commissions. As far as the timeline, we, as I said, we had already created the RFP and put it out. The proposals were due October 9th, and we did get several. We got a good collection of proposals to evaluate. We're currently in the process of evaluating those, and we're not done. Our goal is to bring a contract to council. It's a goal. I don't know if we'll hit it, but the goal is to bring a contract to council by mid-November. And so that the soonest I think we would be bringing something to council would be November 17th. Then we have the Thanksgiving break. So if we don't hit that, then it'd be the first council meeting in December. But we're hoping that our RFP was clear enough, the statement of work was clear enough, the assumptions and deliverables, and frankly, who we select is adept at helping us to get to council by mid-November, so they can really start the public engagement, start those focus groups, start the interviews, start the community workshops now. And so they can have that going in fall before things inevitably start to slow down given the holidays and things. So we want to get this contractor out of the blocks and getting going so that during the holidays when people aren't available and we don't want to schedule, heavy topics like this on Christmas Eve, for example, that the consultant can be doing the data analysis, things that don't require interactive work. They can be working with the numbers. Okay, and then I highlighted these in a different color, because this really gets to where this commission can play a really critical role, and that's on the public engagement in two fronts. The first on the workshops and the engagement on the definition of essential police services. And I'll get to some other opportunities after this slide, but I would really like to make sure that you as commissioners and that your own networks are hooked into the engagement opportunities that we have right out of the gate of even defining what essential police services are. So after the consultant does that initial engagement and locks down that definition, then we as staff internally will get the administrative draft. And then, as I said, we're going to put that administrative draft in its final form out on the street for a public review period. And again, that's going to be another time where we're going to want this commission, you as individual commissioners, and your network to really help us get the word out to everybody, especially in this socially distanced, strange time we're in, of how can they engage, how can they get us comments and really understand what we're doing so that we end up with a final report that really does reflect a community that's been heard. And then lastly, we have set up a specialized website for this, and I'm going to go ahead and, if you can bear with me for 1 second, I'm going to go ahead and pull this up. So it's santabarbaraca.gov/equity. This project was one of 5 that the city council directed staff to undertake as part of the budget. And I'll let other of these things may be coming to you, or you'll see them come to council. But mine is, why we're here today is this number 1. But the reason why I show you this website is this box here, this Stay Informed box. One of the things that would be really helpful is if you as commissioners would go in and enter your email address into this box and hit the subscribe button. Because we're going to, as we as staff release milestones and information toward the achievement of milestones, we will be pushing out information to the community and to you on progress, but again, more importantly, on opportunities to engage, right? And so if you can help us spread this website around and get everybody in your network to subscribe, that would go a long way. That'll be a big deal and a big help to making sure that we as staff understand, and that we also give we cast as wide of a net as we possibly can, so that when we're relying on the contractor to help us with this public engagement, we're certainly engaging the community. And so I'm going to leave this up, but that concludes my formal presentation. I'd be glad to take any questions.
We can't hear you, Chair Stedman.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, I had I was muted. So Matt, when do you expect to make a final selection for the
Pretty
consultant?
quickly, probably within the next 2 weeks.
Got it.
I have a couple questions. Curious, what has the deadline passed? How did you get many applicants for this RFP, and how do they look?
We did. I'm going to be a little bit. I'm going to keep my cards a little bit close to my chest while we're negotiating. So I don't want to divulge too much. But yes, I tell you, I was very satisfied with the number and the quality of proposals that we received. And so it was, you always write these things and kind of cross your fingers that you've communicated well in this big written document. But I was satisfied with who we've got. I was satisfied with the numbers, satisfied that numerous of the respondents really understood what we were going for. And so the next step for us is to hold finalist interviews, with a few of the finalists. We can go into, meet them face to face and really delve into their written proposal and get a better feel for them. But I'm pleased and I'm optimistic.
Great, thank you. So when you're hosting or promoting the workshops on essential services, what I've noticed in this time of COVID, that things just take longer than they used to.
Yeah.
Our individual capacity for things seem to be smaller than they used to. So I'm curious, systemic change is a process that can't be rushed, but also needs to be timely and responsible. So looking at the timeline of November 8th through, and I imagine these are approximate timelines, so
They are.
November 18th through January 10th, does that feel like it's giving enough time for community feedback?
Well, it's interesting because this is admittedly a tough timeline, right? It's a lot of work to be done before a budget session. There are two things that I would offer as mitigations. One, the better job we can do getting the word out now that it's coming, the better our, if the community is prepared for intense engagement in a known period, that's better than, that's certainly better than taking everybody by surprise. So we're doing as much as we can now to pre-seed the ground, I should say, to say, look, this is coming. We don't quite have it yet, but this is our plan. And so please help us cast this net, right? The other thing that's, I think, is a mitigation that makes me feel a little bit better is I want to differentiate. I think it's probably obvious, but I want to differentiate. It's not that the changes will occur as in 1 year is part of the budget. It's the study. And so, as I said before, these changes may take multiple years to affect, and there may very well be additional study as we get to the next one. I suspect that with any strategic plan like this, there may be some things that are kind of low-hanging fruit or don't take a lot, they're kind of obvious. We'll get some immediate benefit out of them, and some of them just, they take some sequencing, and some things have to happen before other things. And so I think you'll see the implementation of the study happen for a lot longer than the study period. And frankly, if we end up with, we've been clear to the consultants, look, this is our preferred timeline, but we don't just want cookie cutter recommendations. Like anybody could do those, right? So we're not interested in that. And we don't want to bring something to council that's half baked and not finished. And so if it's not done, we'll give to them what we have and we'll finish it as we can. So
I appreciate that flexibility. So looking at, I'm thinking right now of the different organizers and organizations who could really help promote these workshops and co-host these workshops. And I'm also recognizing that these folks might already be tapped out doing COVID-related responses. So I'm curious, and additionally, there are valuable voices who may be hesitant to even have conversations around police duties and functions, and afraid to speak up. So I'm curious if there's a budget to help compensate for organizers or organizations to help bring community together.
It's a good question. So as part of, well, I'll say this was an unbudgeted expense, right? So this was direction that came with the adoption of the budget on the day that the budget was adopted. So these funds haven't yet been appropriated. When we come to council in the earliest of mid-November, I'll be asking for the appropriations to cover the study, right, out of the city's budget. So the granular discussions on compensating, participation, for example, we just didn't get that far into this yet, but it's something that may, it's not something that's programmed, but it may very well come up in the deliberations at council. I don't know yet.
So there's conversation really about, compensating folks who actually sit and engage in the dialogue. I'm thinking more about the folks who will be organizing them. So maybe Cause, for example, is a nonprofit organization who has a very active support group and client list. So that would be for sure an organization that we'd want to bring in. And, this would be an additional important task for them to undertake. So I'm thinking more about the organizers and the organizations.
See, it's a good point. I don't have much to share in that regard at the moment, but I hear you. So if I could dovetail onto one of your comments, though, one of the things that, and it's beyond having folks sign up on this website for what would really be helpful, what I was craving out of this and why I was so excited to come to this commission is I don't want to be myopic on the organizations that we are reaching out to. So yes, I am certainly building a list. I don't claim to be the arbiter of all public engagement. So I gladly, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, I gladly accept any recommendations or referrals that you might have of groups that you think will be top of mind, and also groups that may not be top of mind. I'll take all of them. And so if you can send me contact information or ideas in that regard, I'm all ears, and I would be extremely grateful.
Great.
Very good.
One last
Matt,
comment.
Oh.
One last comment, and then I think I'm good. I just want to commend the city for responding to this so quickly. Especially want to commend the activists who came forward and presented this as a city demand. And Some cities and counties have reacted quickly, others have not at all. So I want to recognize and commend that the city of Santa Barbara has responded to this quickly and efficiently, and they are taking this demand very seriously. And it really falls within what I understand our city to see as important and critical service. So thank you for that.
Thanks. Commissioner Beck, you got a question?
Yeah, Matt, thank you for your time. Appreciate all the effort and the presentation. I really like the idea of dialing in on what the definition of essential is before, any real action gets done. My question to you is, we're going to be getting all this outreach. Is this going to be just like a simple, vote for what you think essential is? Like, how are we actually going to figure out what that definition is? And are there going to be is there going to be any guardrails? Because if not, right, you could get enough people to say that it's essential that police officers go to the moon, and that's not true, right? So just curious about that.
Yeah, it's a good question. So you've asked a number of things. I think one of the things that we'll be focusing on in our interviews with the consultants next week is public engagement. That's huge for us. The methods, especially now, right? It's the methods are important. Reaching the subgroups of our population that we want to hear from. And I mean subgroups in terms of segmentation of audiences, right? We want to make sure that we're being cohesive and we're getting the whole spectrum. And so we really want to make sure that that this contractor has innovative ideas on how to reach. We're the locals. We know in some regard who we can put them in touch with, but I think we're looking for a multifaceted approach of not just a public, not just a forum like this that's over GoToWebinar, although, the social distancing thing is real, right? But there are certainly other ways. There are focus groups that we can do. There are individual interviews we can do. There are when we say experience working with populations of all types, we mean that. So we want to hear what have you done? Give us some examples of what you've done in the past. How have you negotiated those obstacles, either from groups that are hesitant to talk about police issues, could be language barriers, could be other accessibility barriers, could be any number of things. So we want to hear what's your multifaceted, innovative, proven approach with this added layer of COVID distancing that you're proposing, and what will the split be between what the city's doing and what you're doing. So that's the first one. The second one, Mr. Peck, to answer your question about feasibility, we're asking for a feasible roadmap. And so I think we'd like to hear the raw responses, but ultimately we're going to ask this consulting, and what the city council has asked for is a roadmap that is actionable. And so in some regard, there's going to have to be some analysis of all the things that we heard and what makes sense within legal constraints, financial constraints, and things like that. And so I don't know, I don't have the perfect answer for you yet, other than we are looking for a feasible, actionable plan, but that has very much been informed by community involvement. So stay tuned on that one.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, that was a well-rounded, fulsome answer, Matt. I realize you're kind of shooting into oblivion here, because you're so early in the process. But kudos to you, for getting it out there.
Well, and I'm glad we're here early in the process. It's important to be here early, and I, what has really formed up in my mind and why I get a little excited about this is, I think you all are a really pivotal resource for me of making sure that we're getting the right people connected to this. I'll say it six times a day. I don't want to be left to my own Rolodex of people to, to be involved. I need all of your help to say, have you thought of them? How about them? How about, how about this group? What about this individual? What about this stakeholder? So please help me and email me all the leads that you think I should be connecting with.
Excellent. Well, you have our support.
Thank you.
Carol, did you need something, or do we have a hand raise?
Yes, Chair Stedman, we have a hand raise.
Okay.
Mr. Green, I'm going to unmute you. You have a comment regarding this item.
Yes, thank you. I look forward to this discussion. In fact, I asked Carol for some material on it before it was on your website. There's some definitions of essential and non-essential that are clear cut. A school crossing guard is certainly not a police function. Meter maids probably aren't. Some are very essential, criminal statute. So why worry about those two categories? Let's look at the borderline only. Why spend any time talking about murders and rape, that sort of thing? Secondly, it would seem like there are tasks or job codes that are in police reports. Just a collection of what those codes are, and a quick scan could probably divide them into the two major categories, yes and no, and the borderline. So they don't have to spend a lot of time trying to figure out what's essential and what's not. I'm also very concerned about the adequacy of recommendations of an outside consulting group about where to offload the functions. That requires a lot of very detailed local knowledge. Do we have any retired city managers living within our scope? Do we have any county administrators that could perhaps be involved in this kind of allocation of function rather than outside consultants? I did a quick internet search while this was on a topic, and I think I may have lost it, but essentially it was essential police functions. I found an American Bar Association report. It's kind of stale. It's 30 years old, 40 years old. A 5-year-old Department of Justice discussion. And it would seem to me that in your evaluation, Matt, you should be tapping those kind of resources to make sure that we're not asking consultants to do simple research that would be available on the web. And I'm really concerned mostly about outside where
Okay, Mr. Green, you've reached the 2 minutes. We appreciate your comments. And just FYI, your audio was degrading just a little bit there the last few seconds, but thank you very much. Carol, do we have other public commenters?
No other public commenters.
Okay, very well. Matt, any final comments?
No, sir. Thank you. Just thank you for the opportunity. And I meant everything I said about, please, I'm completely open to your referrals and especially on the stakeholder side and the engagement. And I certainly welcome all of you and I will keep you informed on your opportunities for public engagement because we want to hear from you as well. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
All right. So we are going to move on to item number 8, commission and liaison reports. So Max, do you have something prepared or? Okay, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. So through my conversations with Lieutenant Hill, and this might be something that we have to put in together as new business, he and I are afraid that I might be reporting on basically the same information that the chief or one of the captains are going to come in, and they don't want redundant information to be presented. So, and I understand, right? And their time is valuable as well. So I don't know if that might be something that we can come together. There might be more actionable items that we as a commission want to ask the police department that they would be completely, receptive towards. But as far as just an overall report, Lieutenant Hill did make it clear that, he feels like we might just be getting repetitive, and he doesn't want that to become stale. And to address the vice chair's request about doing some sort of presentation on the history of policing, he was saying he might be interested in putting together something internally for us. That way we can have a roundtable and have a discussion. But as far as bringing it to one of the meetings, that might not be the most appropriate forum.
I have a question there. I think, and Chair Stedman, maybe you can help clarify this. I think what we would do is schedule a closed session meeting so that we can do that training. And the reason I am all for transparency, but the reason for that closed session suggestion is because this will be hopefully a training that will cause us to reflect on our own biases and actions and things that we may have learned in the past. And we want to be able to freely and comfortably ask questions without worrying about public perception. So I don't know how we do that, Chair Stedman, but the talking with the training department for the city of Santa Barbara, they did approve of a required training for us in January when our new commissioner is sworn in. And I would like to request that it would be a closed session training.
If I may, Commissioner Chair Stedman, Commissioner Rodriguez, there's two ways to go about it for the Brown Act purposes.
Yep.
If there's a quorum, it would not be a closed session item for it. That would have to be the open and set as a special meeting and do that. Or the alternative for these trainings, what we normally do is less than a quorum, 2 commissioners at a time for training. So there's 2 options to have it. So if it's all the it's the same thing we have with council trainings and all that. If they're all there, it's a quorum and that versus the Brown Act. But because there's only a certain amount of items that have to be in closed session. These don't qualify. So there's 2 options. You can do the training 2 at a time with staff, or if not, those are the options available to the commission for that, for the purposes of the Brown Act.
What was the second option?
The second option is to do not have a quorum. So it could be 2 commissioners at a time doing the training with staff. So not all the commissioners together.
And then what's the other option?
The other option would be a open meeting with all the commissioners attending. Whatever the commission would choose, obviously.
Right. Okay. I guess, is this something that the commission would like to vote on? Or do you want to ruminate on this and bring it up in the next meeting? Because it's not going to occur anyway until January, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have to, take action on it in today's meeting. But based on Attorney Doimus's advice and clarification on the Brown Act, we can think about this and bring it up for a vote next meeting. Does that sound reasonable?
You put it up for a motion, I will second it, Chair.
Okay, very well. All those in favor of discussing this item at our next meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, the motion carries. We will take up the form and format of our requested training in January at our next meeting. Do you have more to report, Max?
That's it, Chair, other than, us putting our heads together and figuring out what other gems I can glean from the police department without being redundant.
Right. No, you're doing a great job. I think just the fact that you're dialoguing and reporting is excellent. So keep up the good work.
Thank you, Chair.
And now we turn to our venerable Fire Department Battalion Chief Head, John Allman. Anything to report, John?
Oh, thank you, Chair. Yesterday, I met with Chief Nickel, kind of a melancholy time because I'm really sorry to lose him. But he has things to do, and we did talk about the upper movement of folks into the position temporary. He has a lot of confidence in those folks, as I do, because I know them all. But we just talked about different things, and I'm hoping that it all works out for him. I know he's going to go back home to where he lives and join to his family, and that's great. I'm happy for him there. But yeah, we're going to miss him. I'm going to miss him. Great, he started a strategic plan way back when, which is about a 5-year thing. And I think he's really encouraged, as Mr. Casey said, to complete that strategic plan. You've probably all got a copy. So read through it. There's a lot of technical things, but the gist of it is keeping the fire department going as it should be for years to come. But that's about it. It's about all I have on that.
Okay. Yeah, and I want to also add that I had the opportunity to meet with Commissioner Allman yesterday, face to face. So on some of the coordination that you've been doing behind the scenes for the commission and for our outgoing chief, Nichols. So it was good to see you yesterday also, John. All right. Yeah, go ahead.
No, it's good to see you face to face. That was quite nice. Or mask to mask, however we did it, I'm not sure.
It was mask to mask, everybody. So, all right. Okay, moving. Do you have anything to report, Commissioner Rodriguez?
I don't. Hopefully next meeting I will, as the deadline for the formation committee for the oversight commission will be approaching. So hopefully we'll learn more there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you also for keeping the commission informed. So moving on to item 9, old business. Are there any questions that the commissioners have?
Chair, this is Councilman Gutierrez. I have something I can report if this is the time to do it. I'm not sure if this is one.
Absolutely, Councilman Gutierrez. Good to hear your voice.
Yeah, sorry, I can't really access my camera right now, but I just wanted, obviously you all know what's going on with the police chief, or sorry, with the fire chief, and
right.
And yeah, we're all gonna miss him greatly. And the only other thing I kind of wanted to clue you all into is I'm not sure if you all heard that there's a bit of a tension between bicyclists and pedestrians, especially on the State Street corridor.
Right.
And I've been getting a lot of correspondence and comments from people about whether or not we should try to get the PD to be more aggressive in enforcing on them. My only concern with that is that the majority of these bike riders are youth, and as you know, the pandemic's affecting everyone differently, and the youth are being forced to stay indoors all day and stare at screens, and getting to ride their bikes is their only escape from all of that. And yeah, there have been some instances where they've been dangerous on their bikes, but overall, I feel like riding your bike is a great activity as opposed to getting into trouble. To be honest with you, the PD have told us that the number of gang related activity among youths is down, and it's might be attributed to the fact that they rather just ride their bikes than get into trouble. But I'm worried that if we pressure the PD to enforce on these riders, then we're essentially just criminalizing them for being young and on a bike. And I just wanted to voice that to you all. And maybe if you're interested, you could have a discussion on it at some point in the future. But I just want to let you know that this is an issue that a lot of the community has been commenting on and asking us for action. And I wanted to get your opinion first before we come up with anything definitive. And there's a lot of the official bike organizations, the bike nonprofits, have come together and started to regularly discuss this issue. And I can get them to call into the next meeting or have them meet with you and discuss the issue with them, so you understand from their professional organization's perspective on how they can help address this issue, so it's not necessarily just on the PD's shoulders.
Fair enough, Councilman Gutierrez. So is there a motion to agendize this discussion, this item, at our next meeting?
Motion
I
to
don't know.
agendize.
What's that?
I second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, the motion carries unanimously, Councilman Gutierrez. We have that on our agenda now, our radar. So
Awesome.
if you can get us the information on these organized groups ahead of time, that would be fantastic. But thank you for bringing up that concern.
Will do. Thank you so much.
No, that's great. Did I see you speeding on a bicycle by my house the other day?
I
Oscar?
don't know if that was me or not. My bike has had some problems recently, so it probably wasn't me, but who knows?
A lot of people go down that hill pretty fast. So
Yeah, no, I know that hill, and it's pretty dangerous. I don't think I'd go down that hill that quick because of it.
I'm going to keep my eye on it. If you go in the other direction, you'd end up at one of John Allman's houses down at the bottom, down by Cliff.
Oh, wow.
So,
Okay.
yeah. Anyway, all right. Thank you very much. Much appreciated,
you.
Oscar.
Okay.
Are there any other old business items for item number 9? Okay. Let's move on to item number 10, new business. I think we've created 2 new business items, right? In the course of our proceedings tonight. We've got 2 new agenda items for our next meeting. Are there any others? All right. Very efficient meeting. I like this. So now we're going to move to item number 11, which is the fire chief's monthly report. Now it looks like we have 2 fire chiefs here. There's our fire chief. All right. Chief Nickel, how are you?
I'm great. Chair Stedman, members of the commission, Eric Nickel, your fire chief for a couple more days anyway. I'm going to just talk for a few moments, but really what I want to introduce you to is Chief Males and think about the future of the fire department and where we're going, certainly in the interim. I come to you today, as somebody mentioned earlier, a bit of melancholy. On one hand, I'm very sad to be winding down my time here. It's certainly a lot shorter than what I had planned, but the needs of my family have really trumped what I'm available to do here. As I've said, it's very difficult to be a good fire chief, a good husband, a good son, and a good father. And I am coming to you from a place of gratitude and certainly at peace with my decision. I know it's no secret. My last 15 months have been incredibly difficult with the loss of my son to suicide, and now with my two natural parents and then my mother-in-law having some really impactful needs related to their medical condition and their lifestyle. And I think everybody wants to, people say, oh, put your family first. And there are times if you sign on to public service that even though you say that, there's times that you literally or realistically just can't do that. So I've had the distinct privilege of serving the public for 33 years, and I am looking forward to the privilege of serving my parents. And you know, they just have a lot of needs, and I'm playing a new role that many of us already play, and that is parenting our parents. And I'm also incredibly grateful for, you know, that I'm able to do this. And I'm at a point in my life where, you know, my wife and I can make these decisions and go take care of my parents. I'm also incredibly grateful for your leadership and your support over the last 22 months for, you know, the fire department, the police department, and public safety here within the city of Santa Barbara. I mean, it does take that servant heart to want to step up as a commissioner, as a community volunteer, as a community leader, and really work hard to make things better. And, you know, to hold us accountable to delivering good services to the community and provide us advice and some background and perspective as a community member so we can deliver better services. And one of the things that I am so thrilled with here in the fire department and in the transition, and I believe Paul Casey mentioned it earlier, and that is the strategic plan that the firefighters did. It wasn't Chief Nichols' plan. It wasn't the staff's plan. They drove it. I showed them the roadmap, and frankly, of the 3 days that we had done planning by design, I was not there at least half of the time. They own that thing. And they have told me time and time again, and it's all members of the organization, rank and file in the union, as well as chief officers. Chief, what are we doing with the strategic plan? We want to get going on it. We want to get going. And so one of the asks I made of them as I transitioned out was, you know, you own that. Don't let that thing wither away. Get started on it. And there's some really key things that they want to get started on right now, particularly around succession. And I think my departure highlights that succession need. Chief Waldron is anticipating retirement in about a month. And so, you know, it's about having that deep bench and the next person to step up. We have incredibly trained firefighters, well-skilled. They can step up into a higher role. So you don't have to worry about the succession piece. Now, some of these folks, as they're growing, they will grow into their new assignments. But I have all the faith and confidence in their skills. The second thing that is really special about the fire department is the culture. And, you know, we talk about a supportive culture, we talk about peer support, and I am firsthand here to tell you that if it wasn't for the culture of this fire department, I would have been gone 12 months ago. I mean, they sustained my family and I in those dark days into our unexpected journey into grief. And they really live their values of, you know, we support each other. And rank has no, there's no, we don't consider rank. It's like, you're a firefighter, we're here to take care of you. So the culture here is very special. I've spent the last 2 weeks doing a great deal of transition work. And what you can expect out of the fire department is a very smooth transition from myself to interim chief Chris Males. And, you know, what the next 4 to 6 months look like until, you know, Paul Casey puts a process together, you can expect the fire department to not miss a beat. And I have all the confidence in Chief Males. You know, a little sort of sidebar, Chief Males and I met in paramedic school 33 years ago, somewhere in there, let's say a long time ago. And we sort of lost track as I, you know, pursued a career up in Northern California. Then when I came here, we reconnected after not, you know, connected for, you know, probably 2.5 decades. So I'm thrilled to be able to hand it off to one of my paramedic school colleagues. And, I think one of the things that, really highlighted Chris's abilities to step forward in an interim role is the leadership that he took on citywide this spring with COVID. He became not only just the fire department's COVID expert, but public safety, and then ultimately the entire city. And other city departments would be calling him all hours of the day and night. Hey, we think we might have had an exposure, and he would patiently walk them through all of the charts and is this an exposure? What type of an exposure? And ultimately, word got out about what we were doing here, really what he was doing here. And he was getting calls from other agencies in the county. He was getting calls from other public safety agencies in Southern California. And so he really has stepped forward in a really, awesome leadership role citywide. Doesn't matter what department you are. We're all from the same city. We're all here delivering services, and everybody's unsure and or scared about, did I have an exposure? So that, and when, Paul Casey was checking in with all the chief officers, Chris came in with essentially here's my transition plan if you select me as the interim. So he's already done a great deal of planning. We met today for about 2 hours. It was our second or third meeting where we're just going through a whole list of transition items. So he's up to speed on all the big ticket items, probably 98% of what's going on in the department, both now, next 6 months, and then 6 months and beyond. So he's fully prepared. He's got the backing of the department, the backing of the chief officers, certainly the backing of Paul Casey and the rest of the department heads in the city. And I fully expect Chris to do an outstanding job as the interim fire chief. And I think he's on here. And Chris, I'd love to sort of hand it over to you and let you have a few words with the board. There he is.
Can everybody see me okay?
Hey, Chief.
Okay, all right, wonderful. Chairman Stedman, Commissioner Rodriguez, Commissioner Allman, Commissioner Peck. Hello, good afternoon. Chris Males. I am a current battalion chief. In fact, I'm on duty today, so if you see me exit stage left, it's a call. But Saturday morning, I begin my new acting, interim, temporary, whatever you'd like to call it, position as fire chief with this great fire department. I just wanted to give you a little bit of background on me, but first I'd like to thank Chief Nickel. We had a wonderful discussion today, both professional and personal. I will let him know it was the May of 1989 class at Daniel Freeman Hospital Paramedic Program. That's where we met. And he's right, we kind of lost track of each other. And then when he got the position, it was Eric Nickel, where do I know that name from? And I actually went back to my picture from paramedic school in 1989, and lo and behold, he's standing right next to me. So it was an interesting turn of events, and I feel completely honored to take over this department for him after such a wonderful job that he's done over the last 22 months. So just a little bit about me. I'm born and raised in Santa Barbara, attended all of the local schools, Monroe, La Cumbre, Santa Barbara High School, City College, and UCSB. So I tapped into all the local resources. I wanted to be a firefighter with this department since I was a little kid. Ever since I got to watch the 1958 open cab Crown fire truck go racing down Cliff Drive as I was at Monroe School. This has been a dream come true. This is the only department I ever wanted to work for. And over the last 28 years, I've ascended through the ranks, firefighter, engineer, captain, battalion chief, and now moving into this position as a temporary head of the department. We have an incredible department. You should be very proud to be involved with the city and this department. This has been a true honor for me. As I said, I have 28 years here, and I'm winding down probably the last 5 years or so, and it's just been an amazing journey for me. When I met with City Administrator Paul Casey, I did kind of outline a plan. I kind of planned on 6 months, and we're not going to move mountains in 6 months. As I said, we're not going to cut down the apple tree. We're going to take little bites of the apple. And as I move into the administrative role, I will be supervising an operations division and a fire prevention division, along with the administration division. We've got incredible people on this department with a lot of amazing energy to do the right thing always. So we're not reinventing the wheel. Chief Nickel has left an amazing blueprint for us. So I'm going to really concentrate on 6 things over the next 6 months. You could say Chris is 6 and 6. And those are the budget. We do have ongoing budget concerns, and we need to be very astute about the looming budget and what could happen in the future, what has definitely impacted the city over the last few months. And really, and there's no particular order, but the second is the people. Chief Nickel talked about the culture of this fire department. This is an incredible culture. We are by far, that I've heard, the most caring department that I've ever had the pleasure of meeting people from. We are an amazing department. We've got some work to do. There's some stuff we can do for the people. I'll tie back into the people in just a second. Two big ticket items coming up in the next 6 months. One is continued work on the ambulance contract. Two is continued work on a regionalization of our fire EMS dispatch services. And five, and again, in no particular order, is that strategic plan. Chief Nickel outlined this 5-year strategic plan, and I'll go back to the little bites of the apple. We can begin to look at those 8 major initiatives of the strategic plan. We're going to start taking a look at those, and we're going to start delving into them. We're going to hit the low-hanging fruit. We're going to start to form some committees and see if we can get this going. Chief Nickel had every intention of doing this, but as you know, COVID really has sidestepped our department. So I'll segue to the last item, and that is COVID. That's probably the only real item I'm going to keep from my current role as battalion chief, is I'm going to stay on as the representative to the city for COVID. I've been at it so long now, and have read the flow charts and the quarantine sheets and all of the stuff that comes with a COVID exposure, and it's really kind of plug and play for me right now. And to turn it over to somebody would be a pretty big lift. And I've got an amazing team at the police department, Captain Mary Linda Arroyo. And I think we're most fortunate to have an emergency physician as our medical director, Dr. Jason Przdowski. And I can't tell you how many times, even at 2 o'clock in the morning, I hit conference call and Jason, Mary Linda, and I are on a conference call about an exposure. So I'm going to continue to keep that, and then I'll step back from my current role as battalion chief. We'll send out my duties to other personnel, but I've got a plan in place. And we're very fortunate to have Chief Waldron continue for the next month, so I'll be working with Lee, really learning not only the job of the fire chief, but I have to learn the job of the operations chief. Bumping up 2 ranks is, that's kind of double the efforts for me. So anyway, I didn't want to take too much of your time. I just wanted to introduce myself. You will see me again. Again, I go back to Chief Nickel. Thank you so much for your leadership, your mentoring, the great human that he is. He shared so much of his life with us. We felt honored even on his darkest days to help prop him up and take care of him. That's what we do. We take care of each other. And that's if there's anything I'll take away from my discussion today with the chief as we closed out, it was a very personal discussion about how we really take care of each other. So I'm going to continue to do that. We'll continue on this fine tradition, and I appreciate your patience with me as I ascend the ranks and try to figure out what I'm doing. But I'll put one foot in the other and do my best. So that's it for me, unless you have any questions.
Welcome aboard and congratulations, Chief Males. Looking forward to seeing you every month, if not more often, getting reports from Commissioner Allman on your activities.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, sorry, Chief, it's John Allman. I remember when you had to call me Chief.
I still do, Chief.
Hey, welcome aboard. I'm more than pleased, and good choice, and hope to be working with you a bunch and meeting up with you.
Great, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
As a coworker and a good friend.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, everybody.
No, absolutely. Is Chief Nickel still there? There he is.
Still there.
Hey,
Still in the house, a couple more hours.
all right. So we have something for you from the commission, and I want all 3 chiefs on there. Looks good. Allman, Males, and Chief Nickel. And I wanted to thank Chief Allman a little bit first for putting together and coordinating, getting a little tribute, a little plaque for you, Eric. So I'll just read it. It's to Fire Chief Eric Nickel, and grateful appreciation for your service guidance and dedication to the citizens of Santa Barbara, California. And it's from all of us, the fire and police commissioners of the city of Santa Barbara. We salute you.
Thank you. Oh, cool.
I don't know if you can see that.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's not the best video, but that gives you an idea. Chief Allman picked it out and executed on this one. So, you know, we want to thank him for that. And I can drop this off personally tomorrow to your office.
Fantastic.
We don't want you to scamper out of Santa Barbara without having this piece of lumber to take with you.
Office tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely.
Great.
Nick,
Well, thank you.
I'm wondering if we have any wall space left.
Thanks a lot, Eric.
Great. Thank you.
Hey, Nicole, I just want to thank you. You've served as leadership for our community heroes, and heroes are humans too, with human experiences. And I want to thank you for staying with us and serving our community during a very difficult time in your life experience. And I just acknowledge that and thank you for that. And congratulations on your retirement. And now you can be a hero to your parents.
Thank you, Commissioner Rodriguez. You bring up an important point. One of the things that I will continue to be engaged with in public safety is opening my heart and lending my voice to suicide prevention and suicide awareness. You know, one of my colleagues from Palo Alto was just in town last week. He's done some really amazing work. He was a military veteran who saw a couple of tours of duty in Iraq, and he was a Marine. They were in some of the really intense battles in Iraq, and when they got back to the United States, a lot of his mates were taking their lives. And, you know, 22 veterans die of suicide every day. And, you know, for the last 5 years, there have been more firefighters who have died by their own hand than have died by any other workplace injury, such as being, you know, trapped in a fire, a collapse, a vehicle accident. The only one that exceeds that is occupational cancer. And it's pretty scary to think that, you know, suddenly more firefighters are dying by suicide than are dying from, you know, the other means. And while, you know, my son was not a firefighter, I have a very unique story to tell. And you talked about being a leader, and as difficult as it is to share my story, I want to normalize that conversation. And we were having a conversation at one of the fire stations the other day with one of our brand new firefighters. And he's, you know, he's been with the department for, you know, 6 or 7 months. And here's the chief of department having a very candid conversation about it's okay to say we're not okay. It's important that we take care of each other. And, you know, I've suffered, you know, loss of my son from suicide. And I want to normalize that conversation with everybody, because we all, if you're in public safety for any measurable length of time, you're going to have PTSD. You're going to have those days where you remember a terrible call, something goes weird, you're not feeling right, you know, you're ruminating on things, you know, you got to get out of that sort of cycle. And so my colleague did this big suicide awareness. He walked 22 miles a day from Palo Alto to San Diego carrying 22 kilograms on his back. And so he was in town filming for this documentary that he's doing. So I will continue to lend my voice and open my heart from my experience here, in hopes that this doesn't happen to, you know, any of our brothers and sisters in police and fire, and really anybody in the community. So thank you for bringing that up, because that is really important, and, you know, sort of an advocacy role that I can continue to play even in retirement.
Thank you.
Well, you're always welcome in Santa Barbara, Chief. So you better be back sometime with your family.
Yeah, it's a goodbye for now. It's, yes, my wife and I love the community. We had just a really wonderful weekend last weekend before the fog came back in, and it is a special place for us. So we will be back.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Chief Allman, for coordinating that plaque. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Take care.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
All righty. I guess we'll move on to the more cheerful police chief's monthly report. If the chief is there, or her representative, we're ready to go.
Her representative.
Captain Royal, there you are.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, she's not available today, so I am the poor representation of her, but I am here to answer your questions.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me here today. I wanted to give you just a couple of updates. First and foremost, on the crime mapping, we will be putting out a media release next week, and it is going to go to our Spanish-speaking community first. And to let you all know, I was able to get a hold of the company that is the vendor for it, and we have been able to get the tip portions when somebody logs on and actually looks at a crime and wants to get an anonymous tip. It is now translated in 108 languages.
Oh.
So I'm very excited about that. It's absolutely wonderful, works well. And the other nice thing is it's now nationwide for anyone that has a tip that's available in that Google Translate. So that's really, really wonderful. There are going to be a few other things when we do our media release that I'll try to include to help educate and anyone that is having difficulty reading or understanding the process, that we'll try to give user groups or do something virtually to help train people. Because I really want it to be the community to have full access to all the information, be as transparent as we can. So I would ask all you, when you log on or when you look at it, as I release this, please let me know. Anything else that I can try to do, I will do. It's a really good piece. So Liliana is going to work with me on that from Fire as well. So thank you, Chris, for letting me borrow her. And I also, it would be remiss if I didn't say that we're going to miss Eric. Thank you. I think the world of you and your family. I got to meet his wife and his daughter, wonderful people. And for those of you that may not know, Eric is a baker. So he might visit us and bake something next time he comes down. So you will be missed. All right, now on to what's going on. We actually have very good numbers in our patrol staffing right now of 57-ish, depending upon the day, if there's anybody injured or out or otherwise. We recently released several that had gotten out of the police academy in April. And as you can imagine, when they got out of the police academy with COVID going on, there was a lot of constraints on getting their training done. So we're very excited they're out in patrol. Our last testings that we have done, the police academy started in about 2 weeks ago, and we have 1 in the police academy. We sent originally 3 and we lost 2 within the first week by their choice. They determined that it wasn't the job for them. 1 has since transitioned over to be a public safety dispatcher. So it's not a loss of a very good employee, it's just a change of assignment. We are actively recruiting. We currently have 8 variation of folks in background in anticipation of a police academy starting in April. So we hope to get good numbers in that. We're also actively looking at laterals, which are police officers from other agencies that will want to come here, and academy graduates, those that have gone to a post-certified academy and have otherwise not been hired somewhere. We're looking at all those different avenues, trying to figure out what we can do. COVID in the current times make it a very difficult time to recruit. In fact, I would say that this is probably one of the most difficult times I've ever seen in recruiting. So we're going to do what we can. As far as our violent crimes, unfortunately, violent crimes is slightly up year over day. And when I looked into the numbers, it is predominantly aggravated assaults, which is about hovering around 20% above what it was year over day from last year. That's also taking into account COVID. So we'd really like to see that number down. We are not an anomaly. I'm seeing that across the United States and California. People are just a little bit more angry than they used to be. So that's why we're seeing that. The other thing that we're seeing an uptick in is burglaries from vehicles, or theft from vehicles or unlocked vehicles, and vehicle theft. Our actual stolen vehicles and those type of vehicle-related theft crimes are up about 20% year over day. And again, when we consider COVID, that's a pretty substantial increase. We're doing what we can to be proactive in trying to educate the public about keeping keys out of vehicles, locking their doors, being vigilant and being good neighbors and watching out for each other. So those are the things we're doing there. To note, our traffic related incidences, our traffic citations are actually up 24% year over date. And that is because we have some grants that we have put out, specialized units and specialized deployments for pedestrian safety, bicycle safety, vehicle safety, all those different things. So that's why we're seeing that uptick, because of those grants. At the same time, we're seeing overall traffic collisions are down about 40%. And I think that that is directly correlated with COVID concerns and the fact that people aren't driving as much. They are telecommuting or not having to go places as often. So that's kind of across the board, DUIs, things like that. The one nuance that I did look at, because I did hear Council Member Oscar Gutierrez's concerns with bicycles, is that and I was just looking this up, over year to date, our bicycle traffic collisions are about equal. We're not up, we're not down. So that tells me that there's just as many, if not more, people out on bicycles. But the change in month to month, from August to September, we are up about 25% in traffic or in bicycle collisions. And I don't have a particular reason for that. I'd have to look into it more, but that was a nuance that I did want to look up, because it is a concern. I absolutely hear what he's saying. And a lot of the folks that are riding their bike, the young folks, that is their outlet. They do phenomenal jobs building those bikes, keeping them maintained, having that pride of ownership. That's important, and especially in this time of age. So I'm looking forward to hearing more from the coalitions and how we can best deal with that as a community. So those are the big things. Gang-related incidences versus directly correlated to an actual event where it's for the furtherance of a gang. We're not seeing that huge uptick at all. We are seeing more gang-related, meaning in the aggravated assaults, if somebody is claiming to be a gang member or otherwise, it may come over into those statistics. But again, I'm not seeing any huge anomalies or anything to report at this time on that. And that's basically the overview of everything. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Captain Arroyo, I have a question on, there was, I think the last meeting or meeting before, there was a grant about bicycle safety. Was that something, or educating, bicycle education? Does that ring a bell?
It was some bicycle education. It's part of the grants that we run out of our traffic division. And that includes bicycle education as far as where the proper places are to ride, making sure that juveniles have helmets, making sure that people don't violate pedestrians right of ways as well as the bicyclist right of ways, and educating the vehicle drivers as well. So that culminates in the part of the reason why we're seeing that uptick in citations, is that's overall traffic citations for all modes of transportation, pedestrians, bicycles, and vehicles. So that's probably why you see that, and that would be correlated to what you had been talked about.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Captain Arroyo, I have a question. It was related to something Councilmember Gutierrez mentioned. So he said, anecdotally, the bicycle related nuisances on Lower State Street are predominantly youth. And I'm wondering if you can, and he mentioned that youth crime was down, and I'm wondering if you can verify that. Just curious how our youth are doing right now. I did have an email conversation with the Harbor Patrol that they are noticing more youth contact there because they're unsupervised and jumping off the pier, so forth. So I'm just curious how our youth contact is doing right now.
You know, it's hard to say what we are not aware of. at the police department, because if we don't have the statistics or don't get the call for service, it would be hard for me to answer that portion. However, I think all of us realize that the youth right now have a lot of pent up energy because they aren't able to go and socialize and do the things that they normally do. So anecdotally, I'm sure there's more youth out there because they're not in school. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing wrong things. It just means that they're out there, that they're riding their bikes, they're doing the things that have them come into contact with other folks. So I'm not aware of that. I can tell you that the overall referrals are down for juveniles.
Okay.
And that could be correlated again to a lot of things that I'd have to get into the numbers to really give you a good solid answer, but they are down. The referrals to juvenile probation are down. The arrests for juveniles are down. All of those things are down.
Well, that's good news.
That's good news. And thank you for addressing the bicycle issue, Captain Royal. Appreciate that. I mean, I have noticed that everybody's using the term anecdotal ignite, so I will too. I mean, anecdotally, I see a lot more of those kids that are like popping wheelies on those bikes that you were saying that they spend so much time maintaining and customizing. They are pretty talented, but there's definitely a lot more of them out there cruising around in little bike gangs. It looks like 3, 4, 5 kids riding down the street showing off.
It's definitely something they enjoy, and as I say, something that they take pride in. And I think that as adults, that's something that we should actually look at and say, oh, that's awesome. That's great. Let's really kind of concentrate on those that maybe don't realize how they're infringing upon somebody else or what's going on. Ultimately, in the downtown corridor, other than during the farmers market on State Street and 500 State Street, bicycles are allowed. So it really is not something that we would pinpoint somebody and say, well, you can't ride, but you can. I mean, ultimately, it's United States of America, they can all ride unless we enact a law that says that they shall not for safety and concerns. But that doesn't mean that we as fellow folks can't come up and talk to them and try to alleviate things and communicate and support them. I think that's the approach that we really look at is if you support people and the pride that they take in ownership and the things that they can enjoy, that goes a lot longer way than trying to say anything else, in my opinion.
That's great perspective. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Commissioner Peck, do you have any questions? He's somewhere there on one of the slides. Okay. I guess not. And do you have any more to report on, Captain Royal?
No, those were the big things that I wanted to make sure to touch back with you. I know it's been a long meeting, so I don't have anything else on my agenda, but I am here to answer any and all of your questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay, so we are really getting close to the end here. Are there any commission and staff communications that weren't on the agenda? Any comments? For example, on public events that you might want to call attention to, et cetera. Anybody?
Commissioner Rodriguez here. We have a applicant for the Fire and Police Commission appointment. Her name is Diane Travis Teague. She's going to be interviewing at City Council next Tuesday. The interviews begin at 4 o'clock, so I encourage you to watch online and virtually meet Diane. And being that she's the only person applying, she will probably be appointed to our commission. So wanted to let you know that.
Next City Council meeting then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
good. Oh, that's great. Thank you for that. Much appreciated. Any other staff or commissioner communications? I'll say something. It was good to see Attorney Doimus. I think Commissioner Peck used the term guardrail, and I just want to say thank you very much, John Doimus, for your support during my tenure on this commission. He really is our guardrail. So when the question came up today about closed session or methodology for training, John was right there. So you're not unrecognized, John. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely, 100%. Okay, I think we're all done with another great meeting, and I appreciate everyone's help. The commission is really forming up well, so I want to give kudos to each and every one of you. Is there a motion for adjournment this evening?
I motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I second it.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, this meeting stands adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.